Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you have joined us for our two-day Metals and Mining Conference. Our next presentation is from Northisle Copper and Gold. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for a one-on-one meeting by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Sam Lee, President and Chief Executive Officer and Director, and Nicholas Van Dyke, Chief Financial Officer and Corporate Secretary of Northisle Copper and Gold, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol NTCPF and on the TSXV under the symbol NCX. Welcome, Sam and Nicholas.
Thanks very much for having us. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our very exciting story at Northisle Copper and Gold. What we have today is one of the most attractive copper and gold porphyries in British Columbia, Canada, and potentially the world. And we are looking to unlock the copper value through our very attractive gold project. I will be making forward-looking statements throughout this presentation. And so what we have defined over the past few years now is a project that can be described as extraordinary on the basis of a preliminary economic assessment that was released in February, which yields approximately a $2 billion net present value after tax, approximately 29% after tax IRR, approximately 29-year mine life with a payback of 1.9 years. The assumptions used in this preliminary economic assessment is based on long-term copper prices of $4.20 and long-term gold prices of $21.50. If you were to use spot prices at the time of publishing the report in February, these numbers would increase to nearly $5 billion after-tax NPV with over 45% IRR. So truly an extraordinary project economics, preliminary economic PEA. So to dive into the numbers, we are looking at effectively a gold project in the phase one of the project life of 29 years. It would produce about 200,000 ounces of gold and approximately 50 million pounds of copper. So on a distribution basis, it's about 70% gold and 30% copper by revenue. This then goes into a much larger approximately 24-year project that would look at approximately a distribution of 48% copper and about 45% gold and about 7% molybdenum by revenue. So this is really one of the key attributes of our project. It is effectively bridging the copper value through what we view as a critical currency in gold. And the attributes of that, obviously, is that gold does trade at a much higher premium valuation to most other commodities, thereby lowering the cost of capital for development and future funding needs. It is one of the lowest all-in sustaining costs on the cost curve and a very, very attractive byproduct cost. So the basis for which we assess our project as being extraordinary is on the four metrics you see in front of you. It's based on IRR, project payback period, your mine life, and capital intensity measured by initial capital per annual production or NPV over CapEx. And on all four metrics, we are second to none. So typically you will see projects that have very high IRRs, but very low mine life. Well, we have almost nearly a 29% after-tax IRR based on analyst consensus prices in February. with a 29-year mine life. That is something that you typically do not see in projects. There is also a very, very short payback period for these longer copper gold porphyry systems. Paybacks usually are around 4 to 5 years in length. Ours would be 1.9 years, which really signifies that higher margin phase one that pays back the initial capital very quickly. Beyond that, we would not need to fund any future capital. We would fund it entirely through internal cash flows. And then finally, again, for large projects, you would look at capital intensity figures from an NPV to initial CapEx basis of, you'd be doing very well if that ratio was 1 times NPV to initial CapEx. Ours is 1.7 to 1, which significantly exceeds big and or small projects, whatever you would compare the metric to. So this is truly something that we believe hasn't been published or hasn't been recognized in the market, and one of the most attractive development stories in Canada, if not the world. So how did we get here? Well, this project is, quite frankly, the tip of the iceberg. We own about 35 kilometers of a 50-kilometer porphyry district. And we have gotten this phased approach through very, very good, successful exploration. To put things in perspective, we make discoveries for every 200 holes that we progress, we make a discovery. So the project currently sits on 4 discoveries during the period of exploration. And there's been one mine just adjacent to our tenements that it was in production for 24 years. So the rate of discovery around this porphyry district is also second to none. And we progress our strategy always based on making sure that our capital allocation drives shareholder return. So to put that in perspective, our exploration programs over the last 5 years, every single one has effectively yielded a 3-to-1 ratio of return on capital as measured by market cap. So that is if we raise up $10 million and $7 million goes into the ground, we would usually see about historically see a $30 million plus increase in our market cap. And you can track that over the course of the last 5 years based on the results that we would release. And so I think the strategy has been very sound in the past, but certainly as we progress in the future, we are going to expand that strategy to not only focus on the smaller, higher grade areas, but now we are laser focused on what could potentially become out of this district, 35-kilometer district. So this is just a snapshot of how we performed over the last couple of years. A couple of things to note here is that based on our peers, which we would consider a bit ambiguous, given that we are not only a copper project, we are a copper and gold project. And so there's not many of us out there. But I think that from a copper perspective, and certainly from a GDXJ gold perspective, we've outperformed our peer group significantly. And I think it's because of that commodity mix. Like we believe, as does pretty much everyone in this world, that copper is the critical metal. But we also believe that gold is the critical currency. And the virtues of that, obviously, as I said before, it gives a much lower cost of capital, premium valuations, access to capital, et cetera, et cetera. So we believe we're quite unique. The market has obviously started to understand this dichotomy as copper being the bridge, gold being the bridge to copper value. And there's just not a lot of investment opportunity out there among that space. I think another big driver to our success, excuse me, is our capital structure. We are very, very clean balance sheet. We do not have any debts. We do not issue warrants. because we understand what the overhang can imply when you issue warrants. We just announced a $35 million offering last week. So pro forma, our balance sheet is extremely strong going into closing, post-closing, in around $40 million in cash, which is exceedingly important to expand our development and exploration activities going into the second half of this year. I think we're second to none again on our leadership. At the board level, we have two mining Hall of Famers, including Dale Corman, our founding chairman, who's also our largest shareholder, just above 10%. Alex Davidson, another mining Hall of Famer, who just recently joined the board. He was responsible for growing American Barrick from a very small company into the Barrick that we know today, over many decades of being their executive vice president of corporate development and exploration. We have mine builders, Kevin O'Kane, who spent over 35 years at BHP and assisted in bringing forth some of the largest copper mines in the world, including Escondida and Spence. He actually was the chief mining officer for the adjacent BHP property that sits to the south of our property. Corporate governance, we've just included Jill Donaldson, added Jill Donaldson to our board, who's a specialist on independent committee governance, special committee work. And Keena is our chair of our audit committee, who has very significant relationships among our First Nations communities as well. Our leadership team has discovered, developed, funded, and sold mines across a 200-year collective mining term, and we all are very much dedicated to moving this project forward as quickly as possible, but also realizing the exceptional potential across the district opportunity. Next slide, please. So where are we located? Well, we're located in one of the safest, if not the safest jurisdiction in the world. Why is that important? Well, over the course of the last 30, 40 years, we really have seen an ebb and flow of where investment dollars have gone. And obviously, at one point in time, British Columbia, Canada was one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific mining, certainly copper mining regions in the world. That started to regress away from Canada into places like South America and Africa in the 80s and 90s. But given where the world has progressed, how the world has progressed over the last few years, we are now in a situation where everyone seems to be coming back into these developed tier one jurisdictions because of rule of law, social license. The fabric of mining is exceptional. The infrastructure is exceptional. And that's why we're seeing at a macro level investors coming back into these countries, and Canada being the leader of this country. There has been in British Columbia a very significant movement around a political will for natural resource extraction industries. What you see here is the top 18 priority projects that the government has identified as being priority projects in British Columbia. Obviously, our Northisle project, which is on the northern end of Vancouver Island, is included in that. The government has recently announced 4 projects that are looking to be expedited going forward. And we believe that we are going to be part of a group that is going to be considered as part of that consideration moving forward in the near future. So going to where the island is, for those of you familiar with the island, we are on the northern end of it, which is approximately 500 kilometers away from Victoria, our capital of the province. In fact, as you go north of the island, everything north of Campbell River was, including the roads and power and ports, was all built for the Island Copper Mine that was in production for 24 years, operated by BHP. In fact, Port Hardy, which you see just to the top right there, was established effectively for this mine back in the 70s. So the infrastructure is quite remarkable here. You look down, you see paved roads. You look up, you see power lines. That's where the Island Copper, former BHP mine, sat. That's what it looks like today. There still exists a port. Obviously, the pit has been filled and reclaimed. But most of the major infrastructure, as I said, with respect to roads, power, substations, ports, all of that still remains. And certainly that is a huge advantage as it relates to certainly Canada's initiative around finding global partners and certainly government initiatives with respect to First Nations, provincial and federal governments not having to build additional major infrastructure to access tidewater. We do have the largest wind farm, I believe, in BC, just to the north of us, the Cape Scott Wind Farm, which currently produces over 100 megawatts of clean power. This is very important as it relates to some of the strategic motivations of major companies around the world being driven by not only the product itself, but also driven by how are you going to establish scope 2, scope 3 considerations, including access to clean power. The project, as defined by the PEA, is effectively in the top third northwest corridor of the 35-kilometer district. It includes Northwest Expo, Red Dog, and Hushimu. So phase one, the higher margin, 65 to 70% margin, EBITDA margin exists in what we call the Northern Corridor, which includes Red Dog and Northwest Expo. We're currently actually exploring a new discovery just to the southeast of it, which is only about 100 meters away, called West Goodspeed. I'll get into that later, but so far, the PEA does not include the discovery at West Goodspeed. It only encapsulates Northwest Expo and Red Dog. Phase two is informed by Hushimu, where the major infrastructure is located. So the ore that gets conveyed from the Northern Corridor to Hushimu after the phase one resources at Northwest and Red Dog are exhausted. Moving forward. So that's just a snapshot of what Hushimu is. There's a very high grade, significantly high grade zone in the valley at Hushimu that effectively informs year 6 to approximately year 10 of mining, which obviously is beneficial as it relates to getting that higher margin ore out earlier. As you can see, the cash flow chart indicates as a graph everything we've talked about here in terms of phase one capital of approximately $1.1 billion Canadian being paid off within that 1.9 year period from very high margin rock coming from the Northern Corridor. And then that effectively sees the free post-tax cumulative free cash flow line identified by the green line never hitting zero beyond that point, thereby allowing us to use that free cash flow to fund phase two. Which essentially starts in year 4 and year 5. So beyond that point, the cash flow never goes below $100 million, and effectively the 29-year mine life gets funded by that initial $1.1 billion of Canadian initial cash flow. So in terms of the exploration side of this, this is equally as important because the strategy is not only to develop this project as quickly as possible, but is to unlock the entire district. And as I said, this is potentially the next world-class district in Canada, right here in our backyard. And that's going to start with very systematic exploration in the Northern Corridor. Today, we're drilling in that Northern Corridor to expand that higher margin phase one area. Currently, we're about 70% of the way through. We have started already releasing the results, but the objective there is twofold. One is to expand the area through West Goodspeed, which we will look to define an internal resource shortly through the drilling that we will release shortly. And the second is to find the causative intrusion of these high-grade zones in the Northwest Expo area. The second part of the exploration program is going to be focused on the district scale. And when I say district scale, these are districts like the Vicuña district or the district that OT is in. These are $10 billion districts as identified by what, major companies are looking to advance globally. That is the mindset of our leadership, blue chip leadership board. It's how do we actually unlock this entire district and use what we've just defined, the first 30 years, as a starter pit. And so we now are activated in terms of finding the answer. Starter pit to what? How can we get to that 50, 100-year proposition, that generational opportunity? And what we have today is, again, the first 30-year starter pit that we believe can get advanced very quickly. But we also have over 60 years of data, of exploration data, of geophysics, of drilling, of surface sampling through multiple companies. And now we are looking to exploit that data through AI, computer, data-driven analysis, for which we are looking to establish with some of the leading organizations in Silicon Valley today. We hired Dr. Pablo Mejio as our new VPX, who has dedicated most of his career in finding major deposits around the world using this data-centric, AI-driven, machine-based learning concept. So stay tuned. There will be a very significant program announced over the next couple of quarters as we develop it. But the purview here is to use that model of a starter operation, a 30-year project that we have defined today through our PEA to bridge into a potential generational 50 to 100-year district, which is quite frankly why we are here. So just a little bit of some points on the political environment. The other reason why we are looking to advance our project, our 30-year, call it starter project, as quickly as possible, is because the political environment has not been stronger in certainly the 30 years I've been part of this industry. But over the last 50 years that my chairman has been in part of this industry, we have not seen this level of alignment around natural resource extraction. And I think we're seeing this in all geographical locations outside of Canada as well. But Canada has that established infrastructure, history, professionals, and geology to be able to satisfy the world's needs for these metals moving forward. Next slide, please. So I think this is just a slide to recognize the governments that we deal with, the First Nation governments, the provincial governments, municipal and federal governments. We've been awarded for our work around our approach, around consent, around First Nations development. And subsequently, we believe that this has energized us to really progress our strategy of expediting our project and opening up the district as quickly as possible. And that's evidenced by the activities, the permitting activities that we've gone through in the past, whereby we receive our permits in record times because of these consent-based approach and partnership approaches that we see. So to summarize, this is going to be, well, this already has been a transformational last 12 months. I think we've rebased to the expectation of, okay, now how do we activate that next phase of value appreciation? And that for us, again, is to unlock the district through expedited development of our project and very, very pointed and well-considered district exploration. So you'll start to see, after we close the offering, start to see a lot more news flow around our current 2025 exploration results, including at West Goodspeed and Northwest Expo. Then we'll go in very quickly to the second phase exploration program for the year, and then we will initiate our development program to get to a pre-feasibility study for which the majority of this money that we've raised is going to be focused on. I thank you for your time, for listening. I think this is an exceptionally important time in our lives, and we believe that we are going to have a transitional year over the next 6 months. Happy to take some questions. Nick Van Dyke will orchestrate.
Thanks, Sam. So I think the first question that we can answer is from an investor, Evan Katzel. So he's asked, with copper and gold prices at new highs recently, is there a timeline for when shareholders can expect an updated PEA or PFS? So I'll address that. What we're working towards now is a pre-feasibility study. With the new financing we've just completed, we believe we're fully funded to complete that study. We're progressing sequentially through completing a resource estimate internally on the West Goodspeed deposit, doing the engineering to integrate that with the overall development plan. And then we intend to release a pre-feasibility study targeted for Q3 next year. Could be Q4, depending on the timing of some of the field work. The next question we have is, this is from Peter Grandich. What does it say to have Wheaton Precious Metals invest in our company? Sam, that's probably a good one for you to answer.
Sure, thank you. So I think it's extremely significant. We've established our success through very strong partnerships, starting from our chairman, who's the largest shareholder, myself, obviously joining in 2020, and with Nick, our management team. Michael Gentile is a significant shareholder of ours that supported us from the very beginning. We've established very, very good institutional partnerships over the last four years now. And strong supporters. Certainly, Peter is a very strong supporter as well. So now we're in the next leg of getting through the really interesting part of activating our strategy, being able to do so because we are a $350-ish million market cap today, and that's going to attract major partners around the world. So Wheaton is the largest precious metal streaming company in the world. It's the second largest mining company in Canada. It's the largest mining company in British Columbia. So it's certainly a brand that we really want to establish a strong partnership. And today's investment opportunity through this equity offering was the opportunity was at the equity level. So they wanted to be associated with our brand, and we certainly want to be associated with theirs.
And I think that ties into the next question, which is, what are some of the attributes and qualities Northisle is looking for in a partner to further advance the project? I think that's another good one for you.
Sure. So I think the answer to that question is, simply put, it's the district opportunity, right? So when we look at opportunities, we all come from big cap, blue chip backgrounds. And when we look at opportunities, we look at them as it relates to significant material, things that can potentially change the dynamics of an industry. And so we believe that we have to walk before we run on this. And we believe that what we identified this 30-year PEA, which in others' perspectives, the market, rightfully so, has recognized that this is an extraordinary result, PEA. You will not see another PEA recently published, and when I say recent, over the last 10 years, that have these metrics. But that is not the purview of the company. The mission of the company is to unlock the entire district as quickly as possible, and we believe we can do that through this, what we define as a starter pit, what the market defines as one of the best projects currently available that isn't owned by a major.
Thanks. The last question is around how how we see ourselves using the financing that's going on right now. So the main goals there, 15 million of that financing are going to be is flow through funding. So that'll be used for drilling of numerous targets, including some drilling of the existing resources on the project, so that we can ensure those resources are of sufficient quality to support the pre-feasibility study. The questions that I see here also are asking about Pemberton Hills and the property-wide exploration. So that's going to be part of that program as well. We're really excited about some of the work that Pablo's doing. And so what I would say is, as we've continued to work on the project, we've identified that Pemberton is just one of multiple large potential porphyry targets on the property that we're continuing to develop. And we'll have a lot more to share about that once we continue to do work over the next year. Thank you, everybody. I think we've reached the end of our time, but certainly if you have any additional questions, please do reach out to Sam or myself. Our email address is info@northisle.ca, and we really look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, I'd like to close off by saying I'm absolutely delighted to see this many questions, and I apologize that we can't get through all these questions today, but as Nick said, please do reach out to us. We're always happy to answer questions one-on-one, but this really does look to be a very, very exciting next 6 to 12 months, and happy for everyone to be included in it. Thanks, everybody.